Welcome to the Robotics and Automation News Review. It's Thursday, 25th of February, 2021. I haven't done one of these for more than a week because we've been quite busy with so much news happening, but today there are fewer press releases to deal with, and I thought I'd spend a few minutes going through some of the stories we've covered in the past week or so on our website. For new readers and viewers, we cover robotics and automation, obviously, and in this review, I tend to pick stories from the lists in the right sidebar of the homepage, latest articles, as you can see here on the right, and just below it, most read. So this week, I thought, there's loads of good stories, but there's only one really that has to be the big story, and it is about ABB. ABB has launched a new range of what they call next generation collaborative robots. Now, collaborative robots are, as regular readers will know, and experts, obviously, there's plenty of people reading our website who know the difference. Collaborative robots are smaller robots that tend to be used in close proximity to human workers. They can, touch them and move them around. Teach them how to do a particular task, and work with them just more or less like a power tool, and not really have to worry about the safety, obviously within reason. This is very different from traditional industrial robots, which are much larger, heavier, more powerful, faster, just dangerous basically, and they tend to be caged off and kept separate from human workers. So they're different. And yeah, ABB is big in both sectors now. Well, in the traditional robotics sector, according to our list that we made a little while ago, ABB is the list 30 industrial robot manufacturers to watch. I'd recommend checking it out. ABB is listed at number 3. I mean, it's not an absolutely precise ranking, but we did try and find out how many robots each company has installed, and according to our findings, ABB is about third largest robotics company in the world, industrial robotic arms. The picture you see here is ABB's first collaborative robot, which was called Yumi. It's a dual-armed or two-armed robot, and since then the company has launched a single-armed Yumi. But the new range is actually completely different. There's 2 new robot ranges. One is called Swifty, and the other one's called Gopher. I hope I've said those right. But yeah, those are the 2 new ranges, and yeah, it's a very interesting development. It's very important development. ABB is a huge company, industrial company, provides power generation equipment. That's I think probably their largest business unit. There's loads of other things they do, but and robots actually within the overall scheme of ABB is probably one of the smaller units, but they still tend to invest a lot of time and money into the development of these robots, obviously, because these are very nice looking robots. And yeah, these are probably gonna, be very successful. I'm sure they are actually. And yeah, they did a press conference the other day, and Sami Attia, president of ABB's Robotics and Discrete Automation Business Unit, said the new robots were, well, he said they'd be easier to use, and the company will provide real-time support to help speed their adoption. So people buying them will know that they can, call on ABB to give them a bit of help if they need it. But the thing about collaborative robots, as far as I have read, they tend to be very easy to use. You sort of guide them, literally hold them and show them how to do a task, and they can do it thereafter. So I don't know exactly how these would be programmed or work, but that's the general principle of collaborative robots. They are easy to use, and they're safe to use in close proximity to humans. So yeah, they've ABB have launched these 2 robots, and we'll see what happens with them, because collaborative robots is a huge growing sector of robotics. It's probably the fastest growing sector of robotics. I mean, the overall robotics market is growing, all parts of it, and different sectors. We'll get onto the warehouse robots in a minute. But yeah, collaborative robots, because it's a new technology, new type of industrial robot, is probably growing faster than other industrial robotic arm sectors. So that's the ABB story. The next story we'll cover is um, uh, end of arm tooling. The headline is OnRobot releases world's most powerful electric vacuum gripper for robot arms. Obviously, we can't verify. We haven't tested whether it's the world's most powerful or not. We've put it in quote marks. It's what the company says, but it looks pretty good to us. That's the picture there. It has these suction pads, whatever they called, to enable them to pick up boxes and other things. Yeah, and they produce OnRobot produce a variety of different end of arm tools, and they have bought up other smaller end of arm tooling companies, and are now, what I think, what we are led to believe, they are the largest end of arm tooling provider. There are other companies, obviously we're not obviously promoting them in this program, but they are one of the larger ones. And yeah, they've produced new types of end of arm tooling. One of them, is particularly interesting. They're getting very complex now. I won't talk about all of the others, but this one is the new end of arm tool that they've launched. It's called VGP20 electric vacuum gripper. Okay, so that's that story. The next story is we're about warehouse robots. Now, we all know that the regular readers will know that warehouse robots is a very fast-growing market. There's a lot of money swirling around in the system, in the sector. But for a company to be valued at $2.7 billion is quite something, really. I mean, Berkshire Grey is now valued at $2.7 billion. But it's largely as a result of its merger with a company called Revolution Acceleration Acquisition, which is basically a company with a hell of a lot of money, which is described as a special purpose acquisitions company, acquisition meaning that it's just got a lot of money to buy lots of different companies, I expect. And the nature of the merger, I mean, they don't give a lot of details about whether Revolution has acquired Berkshire Grey or whether it is a merger. I mean, they've described it as a merger. So obviously that's what we've stuck with. But yeah, this is interesting because, with that kind of, if they do have that kind of money, they'll probably be looking to buy other robot manufacturers in the sector. Who knows? We'll watch it. We'll see what happens. I mean, the valuation, a typical valuation of it, it's difficult to say what a typical valuation would be, but just as a point of comparison, I mean, if you look at Geek Plus, which is the largest, we think it's sold the highest number of warehouse robots, about 10,000, I think. They have raised a total of, I think, $400 million to date since they started about 5 years ago. Not saying the valuation of Geek Plus is 500 million, but that's how much they've raised. But if we were to, you know, accept that as their valuation, then yeah, that gives you an approximate idea of what a large warehouse robot company is worth. So out of the 2.7 billion that Berkshire Grey is now believed to be worth, you know, about I suppose 500 million of that would be Berkshire Grey, and the rest of it would be Revolution Acceleration or something. I don't know. I'm probably getting that totally wrong. But anyway, the other story, moving on, is actually about Geek Plus. They've won a new contract with a German online grocer called MyEnso. Yeah, they're supplying their, what they call their goods-to-person robotics solution. Goods to person simply means these little robots, as you can see, I hope you can see them in the picture, underneath these shelf units, moving these shelf units around. What they do is they move these shelf units to a particular point where there's a human being at what's called a picking station, and the human being would pick out items from the shelves in order to, you know, make up an order of different items for particular customers. So that's called goods to person. Goods are taken by the robot to the person who is making up the order. So they've got to deal with the grocery supply on my end. So obviously, being groceries, it has to be fast-moving goods. These robots are capable of moving around the warehouse very fast. Yeah, that is the nature of e-commerce of all types these days, particularly grocery. It is quite a new area, online grocery. But yeah, e-commerce has been around for obviously a very long time, and it's been growing a long time as well. And Geek Plus is one of the companies to have benefited from that growth of e-commerce. Coronavirus obviously has made things worse in so many different ways, but for the warehouse robot companies, it means more robots getting sold, and the market in general for that type of robot has grown probably exponentially, more than exponentially, doubled every year or something like that. But yeah, they're doing a good business at the moment. And Geek Plus, I think, I don't know if I said I think they've sold 10,000 to, actually they sold 10,000 units. They had sold 10,000 units by January last year. So now we're in February 2021, a year on, more than a year on, they probably sold another 2,000 or 3,000 at least. So, you know, it's 12,000, 13,000 probably by now. But yeah, that's them. The other last warehouse robotics company that I'll talk about today is SafeLog. And SafeLog is not like Geek Plus or Berkshire Grey with their hundreds of millions of venture capital. They're a company in Germany, and yeah, I don't know if they've raised any venture capital funding. It doesn't. I couldn't find any, you know, reports of them having done so. But yeah, they've launched a new range of they call them AGVs, or which is short for automated guided vehicles. Now, they also say that they can operate in a swarm, which is like insect swarms or bees or something like that, which is very interesting. I'd like to cover more about swarm robotics. But what interests me is that the jargon, so AGV stands for Automated Guided Vehicles. AMRs are autonomous mobile robots. Now, the difference, as I understand it, now these are AMRs. AMRs tend to be smaller, and they carry lighter loads, but they can move around the warehouse independently, autonomously in all different directions, because they've got artificial intelligence functions like mapping, localization, collision avoidance, and so on. They can take themselves to be charged and come back to work and do all sorts of things completely autonomously. Now, automated guided vehicles have been around, and AMRs are very new. They've probably been around about 5 years. AGVs have been around probably more than 2 decades. They tend to be simpler machines, less computerized, less artificial intelligence, probably no artificial intelligence until now. I mean, they tended to have magnetic rails laid down on the floor for them to follow like a train. They tend to be bigger, carry heavier loads, and they're, as I say, less sophisticated machines, have been until now. But it seems companies like SafeLog and others are integrating artificial intelligence into them, which would be needed for swarm robotics. They've got a certain level of autonomy, so it's difficult to know where to draw the line. What is an AGV and what is an AMR? The line is being blurred more now, but that's a kind of side issue, a more interesting issue, if you like, of jargon and broader explanation or description. But these machines, SafeLog's machines, it says one of them can lift up to 1,500 kilograms. That's probably beyond the capacity of most, if not all, autonomous mobile robots. They tend to be in the 100, 200, that sort of range, maybe up to 500. But yeah, the two technologies are kind of resembling each other increasingly, I suppose. So we might eventually have no distinction between them in terms of the level of computerization and artificial intelligence used. But yeah, this is an interesting company. They've launched what looks like nicely designed machines there in their warehouse, and yeah, keep you updated about them as well. So let's move on. The other story I picked out was this one: agriculture robotics startup Future Acres looking to raise $3 million. I really like agriculture robotic stories. I'm sure you do as well. Certainly from looking at the data of how many people visit agriculture stories, view our pages. They're very popular, and it's a big market. Lots of robots are being developed to do quite sophisticated things, weeding, fruit picking, and so on, which is beyond the capability of obviously larger traditional farm machinery, whether it's tractors or combine harvesters. As sophisticated as a combine harvester is, it's not going to be able to pick your fruit for you. And obviously when farmers want their fruit picked, they tend to employ what you might call low-skilled labor, and often they're immigrants along the border, for example, in the US, and that raises immigration issues and political issues and so on. So it's kind of interesting that robots are being brought in to do that kind of job. If they're capable of doing it, those people obviously lose their job. So, you know, it's an interesting argument to say whether it's a good thing or not. I mean, I'm on balance, I would say it's a good thing, not just because it's technology, and you can't really stop technology that improves people's lives or in the aggregate, you know, eliminates dirty and you know, possibly dangerous jobs. So yeah, I can't really see that. Can't see an argument against it. But yeah, there's different types of robots. This one, yeah, it basically it's meant to carry things. Really, it's actually called Carry. And they, yeah, Future Acres, obviously a startup. They're looking to raise $3 million. If you maybe what's the company that merged with Berkshire? Revolution Acceleration might like to use some of its petty cash to fund Future Acres. But yeah, it's one of the newer businesses. It's very interesting. We'll keep tabs on it and see where it goes. Okay, so the last thing I'll cover today is well, we did as you probably, I'm sure you've heard, Mars has now, you know, been visited by NASA's Perseverance rover. Now we did a interview with someone from a company called Motiv, which builds a robotic arm, or rather built the robotic arm, which is now on the Mars rover Perseverance. The very rover that is on Mars at the moment has this company's robotic arm attached to it. And yeah, it's a great interview to have done. Not great at interviews myself, but you know, the interesting company, interesting technology, and I totally recommend checking it out because yeah, it's very interesting work that they're doing. I tried to get some interesting details about the robot, what's different about it, you know, space grade. This robotic arm, as you can see on the video there, is going to be used for other space missions. So I remember years ago, a couple of years ago, asking someone, a very senior executive at Fanuc, which is the largest robot maker, robotic arm maker, whether they have an interest in space robotics. And they said, you know, he basically said, why not? You know, we'll see what happens. And now that space is being commercialized increasingly, and there's a general acceptance that human space flight, human missions to Mars are just so long, you know, into the future, so far away in the future. It is going to be robots, all types of robots, obviously wheeled robots like Perseverance rover itself, as well as robotic arms that need to do the work of picking things up and, you know, storing them and all that. So yeah, this is the interview that I did with Motiv, and yeah, it was, I found it very completely fascinating, and it'd be nice to do an interview again with the same company now that their robot is actually on Mars. It'd be interesting to find out what the latest is. So yeah, please do check it out on our channel, which is on YouTube. You can easily find it, youtube.com/robotics and automation news, or one word. And yeah, there's loads of short and long interviews, short videos and long interviews on there. And please do subscribe and like the videos if you do like them. And give it a thumbs down if you don't, and visit our website and support us like you have been doing for years. We really appreciate your support. Yeah, I think that'll be it for this review. So I can't think of anything else. I could probably go on about loads of stories. There have been so many stories on the website, but yeah, do check them out yourself, and email us or send us your press releases, and take care of yourselves. And yeah, see you next time.